Alrighty, so I've had this fitted into the airplane with the angle attached. I had it up underneath the instrument panel, held it in place. Again, this side gets held against the skin of the airplane. This edge gets held up against the top of the fuselage. I don't know what that's called, but that support that runs across the top of the longeron, this gets laid up against that. With this square and this square, you can mark through the instrument panel this hole, which is now, of course, drilled. So at this point, I went ahead and marked a center line down the length of the angle. And then I put this back up into the airplane and I clecoed it through the instrument panel through this hole. So now it's clecoed in place. From the outside of the airplane, you have these 4 holes that are pre-punched into the skin. These 4 here. These are pre-punched holes. So you take your piece from behind the instrument panel, you locate your piece just like that, and you can see the hole directly underneath the cleco, this hole here. Put a cleco in there to hold it in place. With it clecoed, you can now look through these 4 holes in the fuselage, look through these 4, line up your line that you just drew on the angle piece, line up your line through these holes and mark them. And then drill them, and then you can cleco the whole assembly in. So that's what I'm getting ready to do now. I'm going to locate the holes on the aluminum angle, and I'll drill those, and then I'll cleco the assembly in place. Another thing to keep in mind, when you look at the drawing, this aluminum vent and this plastic piece, they both get attached behind the instrument panel. So even though we fit this piece tight against the instrument panel, as long as your line on this angle piece is centered, this is the piece that gets attached to the side of the fuselage. That's never going to change. Even though you're going to have this piece also on the front, that's okay, because this is not going to move. You still want your center line on the angle located through the center of those holes. This piece will fit on here. This will have enough flex to it that it will fit on here and fit behind the instrument panel just fine, because the only thing that's behind the instrument panel that gets attached is this one corner. That will all make sense later, that will all make sense when you get to it on your airplane and you start fitting this together. But like I said before, if you have this piece, by all means use it. I don't have it, so I'm doing it this way to get everything that I do have fitted, and I'll have to come back after I acquire these actual vents and fit them in here. But that's a non-event. So I'm going to go ahead and drill these holes, and I'll get this in, and I'll show you what it looks like. Howdy, everyone. All right, so there are the vents. I've got one on that corner, and of course I've got the one over there on that corner. So a couple of things again, just to reiterate. You can see that the angle bracket is attached to the plastic. The angle is attached to the side skin of the fuselage. The top of the plastic rests lightly against the underside of this support piece of the fuselage. And then, of course, the plastic piece is up against the instrument panel, and it will be ultimately attached through this cleco here with a bolt. Now, when I take this cleco out, I have plenty of room then to fit that aluminum piece. The actual vent itself will go behind the instrument panel and attach directly to this plastic piece. With this cleco out of the way, I have plenty of movement and gap to fit that piece up inside of here with no problem. So that's it for now. I've got a couple of notes, just another few things to keep in mind. You can see here I've made myself a note to trim this bottom part of the instrument panel here. It sits a little too tight against this. You can see how it's holding the L bracket, this L bracket that's right here on the bottom. You can see up here in this corner how it's holding the L bracket up off of the face of this piece. So I need to trim the instrument panel a little bit so that this L bracket will fit better. Now that's not that big of a deal because it's so minimal, but you do want to keep in mind that you want the instrument panel to fit exactly where it needs to fit, and it needs to fit correctly, because when you have your vent attached to it through this cleco, and then you match drill these holes, right? If the instrument panel, say that for whatever reason the instrument panel wasn't sitting down all the way and you didn't catch it, you put your vent in here attached to the instrument panel, then you match drill your holes and you think, okay, great, that's done. Then you realize that, oh, the instrument panel's sitting up too high, let me lower it 1/4 of an inch. That's going to drop your vent down. Now your holes are not going to line up. So make sure your instrument panel is in correctly, like I've talked about before. Make sure that it sits down all the way, that it's centered left to right, and then you've got a measurement, some kind of reference on the fuselage to the instrument panel in this dimension on both sides to make sure that it's straight, that it's not twisted or angled. When that is good and you're happy with it and you're convinced it's correct, then you can go ahead and do your vent work, and your vent work should come out really nice and precise. All right. So again, at this point, I believe everything here is now finished. Of course, this all needs to come back apart to be cleaned and everything else, deburred. I still need to fit my vents. So when I take this off, before this goes on, I'll have to do the plastic vents here. And I've got some other work to do. But I think that's it right now. I believe that's it for the fuselage kit. I'll have to read through the instructions, make sure I didn't miss anything other than those vents. But I think the fuselage kit is now considered complete, and I believe I will go back to the finishing kit instructions, which I believe starts on chapter 9. I'll get back into that and see what's next. All right, guys, thanks for stopping in. As always, give me a like, subscribe, and if you would be so kind, if you decide to buy a Vans airplane kit, it doesn't matter which airplane it is, and it doesn't matter which kit. If you reference my build number, which I have in the description of this and all of my videos, if you give them that build number, they'll give me some money as a reference, and I would greatly appreciate that, because it helps me keep these videos coming. So thanks again, and I will talk to you soon.